So a lot of people have been asking me, and people have been wondering in the hobby in general, like, will the hobby, are we going to see values tick back up in the hobby? And I've actually been pretty consistent with what I've been saying is the values escalated right at the same time people were getting unemployment checks. They were getting stimulus bonus checks. There was these EIDL grants. There was a lot of money also flowing out of like traditional brick and mortar business. So people that had money already, they were taking their money out of there and then putting it into like new digital businesses. And obviously that tied in a little bit with trading cards and crypto and NFTs. And we saw a lot of that stuff really balloon. And it has really corresponded, the decline has really corresponded with the decline in the amount of stimulus money that people have, the amount of unemployment checks that people are receiving. And if you look at the real average wage of an American worker, I'll put it up here on the screen, is that peaked right around the same time a lot of this modern NBA, modern trading card values have peaked. And it has slowly started to drift out as we see wages stay about the same, maybe tick up a little bit. But what's really increased is inflation. And so really the criminal thing is a lot of these gurus and these guys that really weren't into trading cards a lot over the last maybe year or two. They got into it. They started influencing a lot of you, telling you what was going to happen. A lot of people said, well, trading cards are like inflation protection. And we've seen that's absolutely not the case. It's a discretionary item. And it's an item, I would say it's almost like a luxury item, especially when we're talking about, I think even like a $50 card, $150 box of cards. That is a luxury item, okay? And it is kind of consumable as well. You got a $150 box of baseball cards and you open it up and sometimes you're left with $18 worth of cards. So it's almost like consuming a pair of shoes or consuming something. And so it's not, trading cards are not something that protect you against inflation. Trading cards are not that great of an investment. I think trading cards are a great business. And so a lot of you, if you start changing your mindset, instead of looking at trading cards like, I'm going to buy this guy because the playoffs are going to start, or I'm going to buy this guy because he's going to become a starter, or I'm going to buy this guy in year 2 because he's over his rookie slump and his rookie whatever. No, that you might as well just go play fantasy or go bet on sports if you want to do that. I think there's way more upside and way more probably fun in just gambling in that sense. You're basically just gambling if that's why you're buying a player, if that's why you're buying trading cards. But trading cards as a business is absolutely fantastic, okay? You go get your wholesale license. You start one of these services that are tracking the values or tracking something, or you start a YouTube channel, or you put up content on a website. You give collectors a reason to kind of want to come to your site. Maybe it helps them organize their collection, helps them understand what's coming out, understand what's in these sets. This idea that we're buying players because they're going to do something in the playoffs, or they're going to become the next Kobe or the next Tom Brady or the next Michael Jordan. We've heard this stuff. I'm an old man now, okay? I'm almost 40 years old here. I've heard this my whole life, not only in sports, but also sports trading cards. Sports trading cards are a great business. Sports trading cards are we're talking about a terrible investment. Okay, go look at the charts of all kinds of stuff. But it is a good business. And there's a lot of people that have gotten started in trading cards, myself included, that have ended up going on to other things and starting to work on other businesses that might be even more profitable than that. So, my thoughts on trading cards going back up, I don't think they're going to go back up as long as we have wages. People's wages are going down. And I think the odds of more stimulus are basically zero. I think the odds of more unemployment checks, generous unemployment checks, are basically zero. You're going to have to suffer with what you have if you have cards that have dropped in value. Me personally, if you need the capital, I would just cut bait on them and go invest in something that has more upside. We've just seen time and time again, even if there's positive things going on the field, these cards are not going up. Okay, we're not really seeing that upward trajectory, and it's because people just simply don't have the extra money that they did, say, a year or two ago. So I guess Josh Luber came out with, I don't know, it was like a 50-page article about, or a dissertation essentially, on trading card, the trading card business, what his thoughts were. If you don't know who Josh Luber is, essentially he's was one of the founders, I think, over at StockX. I don't think he's there anymore. He probably maintained some kind of equity stake in the business. But now he's in charge of the new Fanatics trading card business, which we expect to launch at some point, any point now, I guess. Who knows when they decide to really start ramping things up with what they've been doing. I saw that they were running live box breaks on their channel the other day, YouTube channel. But anyway, so Luber puts up this 50-page article, and, look, I didn't read it. I got a lot of things that I'm doing in my life, but, what I saw were a lot of people too, like, critiquing it. And I was like, okay, first of all, if you read something that's 50-page long and you agree with every sentence of it, well, you're just a sheep. Okay. So I would actually expect people to kind of disagree, take issue with things. But here was my thought the whole time was, what have we ever heard from like the top CEO about the trading card business? How about the Panini CEO? Like, have we heard more than 50 pages of their opinion on the business over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades? No. So I actually think it's going to be refreshing to have a guy that actually has thoughts and can like talk about them and express himself. Most of you probably don't even know who the CEO of Panini or Topps is. You've never heard them speak, or if you have, it's very brief and very general. I mean, we could throw the upper deck guys in there too, okay? These guys don't do a good job communicating. They don't have a vision. They're not entrepreneurs. They're not real CEOs, okay? Real CEOs you hear about. I mean, Elon Musk, you hear about him, okay? That's a real freaking CEO, and he's been rewarded for it, okay? So it's going to be refreshing to have guys in this industry that actually have a mouthpiece and can use it. So I want to talk about something that almost nobody talks about in this hobby is, so a new set comes out and the discussion initially I think is totally acceptable. So people want to know what's in it, what's the content, what players are in that, just in case you're looking for certain players, the rookies, the parallels. This is very similar to like if a new set of golf clubs comes out from Titleist, or they release a new ball, or PXG comes out with a new driver. I want to know what's different about it versus maybe something else that has come out from another manufacturer. And so that's totally cool. But then the next layer of conversation that often happens in the hobby is that you start talking about the price. How much does it cost? How much does it resell for? What can I flip this for? What can I, set up a bunch of team breaks, a 30-team break, and can I be profitable from it from that perspective? And look, guys, over the last few years, I've never looked at a price of a resale on a box. I think you should be comfortable enough with your finances where you're just buying this stuff and you just buy it. When Mercedes comes out with a new car, I want to know the new safety features. I want to know how the interior is, how the suspension change, how the acceleration is, the gas mileage. I don't look at the price. I already know. I already know what their models cost. I already know what it's going to set me back. I already know how hard I'm going to work. And so instead of focusing so much on how much it costs, how much can I resell it for, how much can I flip it for, how much can I open it and get value out of it? No. Just spend more time worrying about how much money you're going to make. What's your next project? What's your next thing you're going to set up where it's going to make you 100,000, 10,000, 5,000 this month? That's what you got to start thinking about. And then you stop thinking about how much this stuff actually costs. And you start worrying about what you're going to be able to do in the future so you can just keep buying this stuff. And you don't have to worry about how much it costs, how much hours you got to put in. You stop worrying about that and you start worrying about what really matters, and that's making money. So one other thing as it relates to the Sports Card Show podcast is towards the end of this month, November, we might be having a interview guest, which will be really interesting because this is somebody that I've squabbled with in the past. numerous times, numerous threats of lawsuits. Now, that doesn't necessarily narrow it down too much. I mean, there's probably been at least a dozen people that have wanted to sue us over here at Sports Card Radio. And I tell you what, you know you're onto something, because if you're telling outright lies about somebody, or you're totally not telling the truth, they would just sue you. They wouldn't even tell you. They would just send over some paperwork and sue you. But when they're like, I'm going to sue you, that's when you know you're right on target. You got things exactly right. You got these people right where you want them. And so this guy and I have squabbled a lot, but sometimes it's a little bit more cordial. So look, we've got an interview lined up. It's towards the end of the month. I don't know if it's going to happen. I think he probably thinks I'm trying to level him, or I've got something up my sleeve. But here's the honest to God truth, is with this Fanatics stuff, is it's going to change everything. The Fanatics, look, we haven't even seen it, okay? We haven't even gone through it. But if you don't think it's going to change everything, then you're crazy. And so these guys I've squabbled with in the past, some of them I have absolutely no interest in having a conversation with, let alone bring them on my show, my platform, my audience, and share their thoughts with you. But there are a few people, and we'll bring them on and we'll hear about their thoughts. Well, obviously we got it. I'm not going to lob softballs. We're not going to just ignore the past. We're not going to act like the past didn't happen, but we'll probably move forward and start talking about the future of trading cards.